All right, everybody. Today I'm going to do my prediction video for the Alabama Ole Miss game and just to review a few things that I've been thinking about through the week and that I did in another video. Um, I'll start with Ole Miss. Honestly, they have not impressed me on their running game, which is to be expected, as I was saying earlier in the week. They don't assume a lot of rushing yards. They don't try to establish the ground game, at least north and south. Uh, they're not attempting to go over 100 yards with their back every game. They are passing spread offense, and so the running game was intended to be the focus. The problem is though that the running game is non-existent, really. Even their top returning back from last year, he's academically ineligible for this game, so they're going to count on some new face, unproven guy, and that's going to be really interesting because, as we know, Alabama likes to take away the run and force you to throw, which I think Ole Miss is comfortable with. They didn't run the ball too great last year, and they didn't run the ball great the year before that either, and they beat us. But I was just saying that you got to still keep that factor in mind. Also, they also lost a one of those freshman receivers, DK Metcalf, who was a really big guy. They were going to use him, kind of like that Laquan Treadwell type role, the possession receiver who can make the tough catches and who can also get down the field. Uh, he was looking to be a big part of the offense. I saw him make a few plays in that Florida State game to start the season. Uh, their receivers are a strength of their offense, of course, and they have Chad Kelly, one of the top quarterbacks, who's a bit prone to throwing interceptions. He didn't throw any against Wofford last week, but that's Wofford. But he threw three of them against Florida State. Because they're an aggressive down attacking, throwing the ball team, so they're going to be exposed to a lot more risk for interceptions. On defense, this is going to be interesting. So that front seven looks good. Well, I wouldn't even say the front seven. I would say the defensive linemen. The front of the front seven looks great, especially when they're shooting gaps. They're very aggressive and they get into the backfield. They abuse that Florida State line sometimes in that game. Linebackers, I didn't really see a lot from them, but the linebackers are not that important in their scheme on defense. The secondary is though, and they're having some trouble there. So one of their starting cornerbacks, Tony Bridges, is hurting, and it looked like it against Florida State. They picked on him early and often in that game, and more often than not, it worked. So he's gonna be exposed to probably the best receiving group in the nation, and watch for Alabama to probably go after Tony Bridges as well. Not to mention that Contarius Webster, their starting cornerback, he's out. He's hurt. He won't play. So they got one cornerback who's injured, one of them who won't play, and in their safety, Tony Connor, who he's kind of like the third safety, kind of plays close to the line of scrimmage. He looks like he's a bit rusty coming back from a knee injury, and he didn't look too great. I remember one play where DeAndre Francois was able to get around the edge on him, even though he had him uh, technically a scheme wise stop, but he still was able to get around, and he looks rusty. So it's going to be something to watch out for. The secondary looks weaker, but the front four looks like they can generate pressure. So that's going to be really fun and interesting to watch from them. Alabama, on the other hand, I was talking about they need to establish, or they're trying to establish, better run blocking with the O line. So the O line hasn't been run blocking too well this year, which is a surprise. A lot of people expected more. Uh, so we'll see what they can do. What's been the biggest surprise, though, is that Alabama's O line has been great at pass blocking. There's been times when I'm watching the seasons of USC and Western Kentucky where Jalen Hurts has all the time in the pocket that he needs. There was a play where it was so clean that he was just looking down the field for like 4 or 5 seconds with no pressure, and that is really good. They're really good at pass blocking. The issue with that Jalen Hurts is still developing his timing, and it's tough for him to throw the ball on time and make the plays where he needs to. There's been times where Ardarius Stewart had to wait on the ball, and that caused an incompletion. There were times where the receiver dropped the ball too, or there's been times where he held on the ball for a fraction of a second too long, and that led to an incompletion or it led to a dangerous throw. So we're looking for him to develop his time and get throws in. But all in all, he seems to be doing pretty well. He's won over the team, so the offense can move with him, but they have to be more consistent. They've been really relying on the big play for a lot of offensive production this year, so we'll see how that works out against Ole Miss. So straight to the prediction now. Uh, I do not believe that Ole Miss will beat Alabama for the third year in a row. Uh, I feel like Nick Saban in this secondary is very much well prepared to fight against these Ole Miss receivers. Minka Fitzpatrick and Marlon Humphrey and Anthony Avery with the speed, Eddie Jackson over the top and Ronnie Harrison. This secondary is probably the best, or at least one of the top two in the Nick Saban era. And I'm excited. I haven't seen the receivers beat them. I don't think Ole Miss receivers will be able to beat them. Not to mention that the front four, the linemen rushing, they get off the ball and they put pressure on the quarterback. If Saban and Jeremy Pruitt allow them to just let loose and just attack, Chad Kelly will be harassed all game, and he will throw more interceptions against the Alabama defense, especially with the secondary being as good. Not to mention that we don't have to worry about committing to the run. We'll be able to drop back into as much coverage as we like. I don't see Ole Miss beating Alabama. Now, here's where Ole Miss can make plays against Alabama. So everyone knows Nick Saban likes the man-to-man press coverage, and he'll commit, players elsewhere, and he's not uh, going to, overcompensate for anybody. He's like, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us one-on-one, which is what you've seen in our losses. Quarterbacks who playing really well and place the ball right where it needs to be and having the game of their life and throwing the ball perfectly, and their receivers beating our cornerbacks one-on-one. That's been typically how Alabama's lost in the past. Ole Miss might make a couple throws like that, maybe two or three, and I can actually give them more because they're explosive offense and they have good receivers. But that won't be enough to beat this Alabama team, especially with the secondary much better. I do not believe they will have as many explosive plays as they did last year or the year before. I think Alabama limits them a lot, and I believe the Alabama offense, even though they may not be able to churn out a lot of running yards and be able to like just consistently grind on Ole Miss, I believe that because the Ole Miss defense is so much weaker this year, I believe our big plays will just keep hitting them. And I believe Alabama probably would get on the conservative side. I'll say Alabama wins this game 31-17. That's conservative. I can easily see it getting 41-10, but I'll say 31-17. And that's just being nice to Ole Miss. I believe Alabama is that much of a better team this year than Ole Miss. And that's my prediction. Let me know what you guys